Welcome back, guys. Pegasus from the Wise Guys here. In case you didn't see the first video, it's down in the comments. And then it was covering XIANGJIAN. Now we're going to talk about Swordsoul. It's the same deck. Let's get it. So, guys, our first combo starts off with the Swordsoul appears card, whatever they're going to call it in TCG. It'll just be what they call it. But I wanted to show the really basic combos of just if you open up with the spell. Tie A is the card that can banish a card from the graveyard to create a token. Thus summoning Swordmaster, and usually Swordmaster is the first Synchro 8 that you actually want to summon. After you do send the Tie A to the graveyard, you would actually get to dump another Worm card and then set a Trap card. Now, guys, I've obviously already done a video on this, but I just wanted to show again the basics and then build up from there. This card is an interruption on your opponent's turn that just basically negates a monster or negates a face-up card, pretty much, period. And then obviously XIANGJIAN Sudden Shift is either a token that's generated when it's banished or an Icarus attack. Again, I wanted to show another variation of the same thing. Again, searching the Tie A, which this card is basically the Rhoda of the deck. The Swordsoul appears, whatever in the world is going to be called again. And then from there, you can obviously, as I stated in the last video, and I'll try to drop it down in the description or down in the comments or something, but you can manipulate the levels. So in this specific scenario, I'm just showing that you can go into a Synchro 9 or a Synchro 7. You can go directly into a Shin. So when you see Shin and you're like, how in the world are they making a 9? That's how. It's from the spell card. Obviously, you have cards like Yazi, Riser Dragon, which we'll get into it here in a little bit with both of those cards. But for this one, I just wanted to show Shin because it's pretty much the best Synchro 9. In this hand, I wanted to show what happens when you actually open Sudden Shift. Some people think that the card is just flat out terrible. I just wanted to show different variations of different hands. Again, always starting with the Rhoda. DRAGONSWORD is really nuts. It has a lot of versatility and utility in and of itself. But again, I'm showing each of these combos with Tie A just to show that people think it's actually the worst one. A lot of people are only playing one. I see it in a lot of OCG lists, but I personally feel like playing 2 or 3 might, it might be relatively decent. This time I'm grabbing the spell off of the Swordmaster because you can actually, off of the dump, bring the Moyi back. So the dump off of Tie A can help you dump the Moyi, and then you can re-summon it back, reveal the trap card that you have in your hand or any other XIANGJIAN card that you have in your hand. And then you go into another Synchro 8. Now, obviously, there's other variations, other options that you can have. Omega to rip a card. Maybe you're going second. Crimson Blade is really strong because in the mirror match, that's pretty much game over. A spell and trap negate with the Adamantipator card because Moyi is a water. And then obviously with the TENYI Berserker, it's just a card that I'm playing because it can banish a card after an effect happens. It doesn't negate, so I wouldn't, I could understand why you wouldn't play a card like this. But I definitely think that having some sort of card next to a Swordmaster in a really simple hand like this is just strong. I'm not going to say this deck has no weaknesses. I think this deck's weakness on being able to follow up is the deck's enormous hole within opening up on this deck. But I do think it is definitely something that is going to impact the meta. I 100% believe that. In this combo, again, I'm showing Tie A one more time just to show that Baxia is pretty much the same thing that I just said with the Moyi. It's pretty much the same thing. You can still summon out the card because Baxia can blow itself up to then summon back the Moyi, and then Moyi can reveal the card, any kind of Swordsoul card in your hand, and then obviously you have a Swordmaster again. Again, you get to draw and add a XIANGJIAN card, and this is pretty much the baseline combo of ending on a Synchro 8 and a Synchro 10. I really feel like that's not too hard for anybody to understand, and obviously with Baroness coming out, you have cards like Grand Duke, and as long as you're not playing the Tenyis, you're not locked into Worms, you can go into whatever Synchro 10 that you want. These are obviously going to be the two primary options within your deck. It's just pretty much self-explanatory. I don't feel like that's too much to try to struggle to understand. I really feel like it's easy to explain. As far as opening up multiples, when you open up both of them, a lot of people are like, well, which one do you summon? I think you always go for Moyi when you open up both of them. That's just my opinion. There may be some variation of combo that I don't actually know, but in this specific scenario, again, you're getting to draw a card, you're getting to add other cards, and then if you open up Long Wand in your hand, and any other way to pitch a card that's a Swordsoul card to then be able to summon a Baroness, that's obviously another extension that you can have. What happens specifically when you open up all 3? Generically, I feel like you always want to summon Moyi if you open it. Just my opinion. again, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like sometimes if you don't have the fodder for tie A, it's just not as great of an opener. That's why people are actually justifying playing one, which I can completely understand. Again, you're just going into long Guan, and then from there you're burning for 12. You're setting up, and then you can revive back the tie A, and then be able to keep extending. Obviously, you get to banish a card, and then obviously you get to manipulate levels again. You don't have to. You can end on another 8. But I'm just saying, ending on a Shin, a Baronet, you know, like this is relatively decent, and this is what your boards could potentially look like. Obviously, there's probably other variations to that combo, but that's what your board can look like if you do open up all 3. In this one, showing off the new Ecclesia, I just wanted to show that it pretty much equals anything. Obviously, you're most of the time going to go for Mo Yi again, just because there's nothing that's really going to change that we want you to vary from that path of summoning the Sword Master and then summoning a 10. That's usually what's going on. In this combo, I wanted to show the power of Ruddy Rose Dragon. You can activate its banish effects. You can't activate the Black Rose type thing unless you use the Black Rose, which is irrelevant. But again, with the deck that triggers when stuff gets banished, Ruddy Rose is actually a combo piece on your opening turn, as well as a really, really powerful extra deck option when you're going against a deck like Drytron. You know, I love Drytron, and if you get cracked with that, man, it's just gonna suck. Genuinely, you want to try to summon out the Tenyis, but in specific scenarios where you're trying to play through a board and maybe you open up a long Yuan, this is probably going to be the combo line that you want to take, because it can help you just wipe through all kinds of interruptions. Now, guys, with Yazi, I do feel that fighting through a board, if you've all seen that Mare combo from way back in the day, and this isn't quite the same because you're going in a card like Tai, but it's still fighting through a board because it's more token generation. It's more cards that your opponent would potentially have to respond to. Obviously, I'm using the 5 cards on the other side of the field to just show that it can just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. But if it's back row, obviously, you may get choked off at a certain point. I just wanted to show. Maybe it's 5 different monsters. You know, who knows what's on your opponent's side of the field? That's going to be up to you, and you're pretty much going to have to figure it out on the fly. But I just wanted to show the power level of being able to go second, which I feel like this deck desperately needs, because it's really amazing going first. It's obviously going to be the weakness is to go second, so I feel like you may want to know some of these combos to fight through stuff. Obviously, with Baxia and the Yazi, you'd be able to take pretty much about 3 cards off of the board, and then you could continue into maybe another Baxia to get rid of the last 2 cards. Who knows what the specific scenario is going to show. I just wanted to show that the deck can keep grinding and pushing through multiple interruptions without a problem, especially certain hand trap, you know, imperms, veilers, who knows. It depends, but it can keep pushing. As far as opening up the other Tenyis, Adhara obviously is another one. I wanted to show the Riser Dragon combo here. With Riser Dragon, I feel like in games 2, when you have, and this is from a couple of my Italian friends and a lot of my teammates on the Wise Guys, we pretty much have been talking about ways to search out some of the cards. I've been seeing it in the deck list, and I had to actually figure this out on the fly. I'm like, how in the world why are they playing Necroworld Banshee? Why are they playing Token Collector like that? Or why are they only playing 1 Token Collector? Like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you want to have 3 if you're going against a deck like this that can kick your ass by having tokens? Well, if you can dump it off of Riser Dragon, which is why the Riser Dragon started to make sense, that helped me analyze, okay, that's why they're playing it, is to dump random cards. Obviously, you have other cards that if you haven't, I have to note this out. On Riser Dragon, it's a lot like Formula Synchron. It's a lot like needle fiber type stuff where it operates on your opponent's turn. You're locked into worms on your own turn because of Ashuna, because of the worms, because of the Tenyis. But you can still technically go into any Synchro 10 that you want. That's very important to remember if you are playing the Riser Dragon, because it is a very, very powerful card that can dump a card to help you set up and synchro on your opponent's turn into anything that you want, as long as you have the setup for it. In this last hand, I just wanted to show with the VESHUDA and the Tai, pretty much, again, the same combos of doing the same thing over and over and over again. You should always be able to end on pretty much any of these cards. You can grab this other spells, but that's besides the point. You know, there's so many variations that I feel like I have to be restrictive in what I'm showing, just because there's so much going on. I wanted to show what happens when you have Tenyis and maybe you don't have the TIA. Ignore the TIA just for a split second. You can still get into a Synchro 8 even if you do not open any kind of Swordsoul in any way, shape, or form. It's very important to remember because of VESHUDA and ASHUNA, the dark and the light, you pretty much have a way to get to an Adhara, and then from there, you have your Synchro 8 right there without normal summoning. If you didn't know that, it's very important to know that, and that's the reason why I feel like you probably have to play the Tenyis. I can understand playing other variations. There's probably obvious weaknesses. I haven't done as much testing with this deck. I'm playing a lot of Flunder and next format Drytron, but as far as this deck, this is the Chao Feng combo that pretty much was based specifically without a normal summon into this direct power wipe of a card in Chao Feng. Everybody remembers it when it was in Yang Zing because it's a Yang Zing card. But this deck is going to make expert use of it because it can pretty much wipe out all of the light hand traps. The light hand traps like Valor, the light hand traps like Nibiru, etc., etc. Don't let that get too far ahead of you. There's so many different power light hand traps. The Chao Feng is going to be extremely popular over here, in my opinion, just because power cards like Valor and Nibiru are so prevalent over here. I definitely feel like there's a combo that you have to know. And then obviously, again, at the end of these boards, you can end on the Chao Feng and you can end on the Swordmaster. And the last card, when you go to grab a XIANGJIAN card, you can either grab a Long Wand or you can grab the trap card. That's totally up to you. In the last variation, I just wanted to show that pretty much ending on a Phoenix Enforcer, if that's the variant that you choose to play, I don't feel like you can play the Tenyis and the hero stuff. I feel like you're gonna pretty much have to pick one, unless you want to play like 50 or 60 cards, and then you're getting away from what in the world the deck's trying to do. I definitely feel like it's a legitimate threat, a legitimate argument of what kind of board do you want to make. I feel like usually a board like this in the hero version is devastating for your opponent. Your opponent's going to have a huge pain in the ass to even deal with that. But that pretty much is based upon what do you want to play. As far as breaking down the deck list, these are just like what I've been messing around with. I feel like it still needs a lot of optimization. I still don't know about talents. I still don't know about what power spells you'd want to play as far as draw cards are concerned. I feel like Prosperity, Desires, it's up to you. You don't know if you want to play Cross Out. If the format evolves in a certain way, you're going to want to lean towards Cross Out being in the main. If it doesn't, then it is what it is. As far as the mirror, a lot of people think that the choke points around the Moyi and the Tai are devastating. They die devastatingly to Imperm and Valor, and that's not always the case because sometimes some of these cards resolve all in the hand, very similar to Drytron. Now, obviously, most of the time the synchros are the choke points, but as far as the other stuff in the deck, I feel like the instant fusion is a necessity just because it's an extender if you get stopped. Don't have to play it, but I would highly, highly, highly recommend playing it just because of the Magic Key tuner. It pretty much can help extend in case you get, again, hand trapped by a Valor and Perm. Depends on what it is, but you can definitely get blown out by a card like that. And if your first summon gets stopped and you didn't open up that well and you're not playing the Tenyis, you may be in a little bit of trouble. So that's just something to remember, that's why people are playing the instant fusion. The Grand Spiritual Peak is the Reborn spell. Obviously with cards like Imperm, I just don't know. The format evolution makes deck lists like these, to me, irrelevant because you're going to need to adjust to what in the world your meta is. You're going to have to adjust to what in the world the overarching theory over here in the TCG is. Kind of like it happens over there in the OCG. They play specific stuff for specific reasons. We play stuff for specific reasons. You may want to play DD Crow because if you're getting cracked by a card like, who knows how Cross Out and DD Crow are going to interact. Maybe somebody's deck dies horribly to DD Crow, and DD Crow becomes a big part of the meta. That's what I'm talking about, where there's just no way to know. I do feel like if you are playing Riser Dragon, not necessarily in this variation, but if you are playing Riser Dragon, you may want to consider Necroworld Banshee and other cards. And then as far as some of these other cards, I just feel like it's just generic stuff that
This deck has a huge pain in the ass with back row, so I would try to go balls to the wall as far as back row is concerned. And then pretty much like I explained before, the Adamancipator card is a very powerful Synchro 8, which you'll have a water monster in your graveyard an awful lot. You can play multiple Nibiru's if you actually want to get off his effect, if you feel like you could ever actually land it. It may be something where that's an evolution of your deck where I don't feel like Nibiru is going to be good in the main deck because of Flunderies, but if you're siding it, it's definitely something to at least think about, because that's a really, really powerful effect of launching the entire board, haning the entire board. Crimson Blader, I feel like is mandatory. Omega, Riser, Dragon, Yazi, Anaconda. Ruddy Rose, I feel like is an insane choice. And then Shin, I feel it's going to be mandatory as well. As far as the Tenyis, I feel like the Tenyis 3-3-2 is what I've been playing. Again, I could be wrong. That's what I've been playing. I feel like it's perfect for me. You have to do what works for you, but while also trying to keep it optimal and then mathematically based so you don't get kicked in the ass. And this variation, I feel like I don't know if I want to play talents like that, because the Tenyis are so busy doing what they're doing, and then cards like Vessel help you to set up like that. You don't have to play Vessel. I feel like I wanted to play, that's why I'm playing 41. You don't have to play 41. I just like that card because it dumps and adds at the same time. So your opponent's going to have a bit of a problem. Again, with the Chao Fang, Chao Fang is specific to the Tenyi version. I don't feel like it's optimal in any way, shape, or form, and even possible in any way, shape, or form inside of the pure version. And then obviously in this version, I wanted to play Shaman of the Tenyi, but I don't know where it fits in. Mare again is a brick. Those are some of the old combos I showed. And that's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope this has helped you in some kind of way. Maybe understand a little bit more about Swordsoul, and we got plenty more content to come. Make sure you sub. I'm out. YG baby. Pegasus out. Ciao, Bela.